Hey, what's up? This is Sam from Dream River Designs, and I am back with another build video. Today I'm going to show you how I built this counter height dining table out of this beautiful Siberian elm slab. Hope you enjoy. So if you saw my conference table build, you may notice that I'm using a slab from the exact same tree as that table was built from. I love the amber color that elm gets with some oil and was excited when the client wanted to use it for their dining table. Shout out to Denmark Slabs in Iowa for supplying the slab. I'll include a link in the description to their Etsy page. Really beautiful wood. Not only do I use elm for the tabletop, but I milled dimensional lumber from the offcut and used it for the base as well. It makes for a really cohesive design. So the first thing to do is cut the slab down to a manageable size. It's a bit thicker than my saw blade, and so I finished up the cut with the hand saw. I try to avoid manual labor whenever I can, but sometimes it's impossible. Here you'll see I'm building a jig to cut a perfect circle. I use a jig to cut a circle in MDF, and then I use the MDF as a template to cut the actual table. Once I have a circle template, I trace that circle on the slab and rough cut the excess. But before I route to final dimension, I surface the table. This provides a flat surface for the router and makes for less wood to flush trim. So I built this surfacing table from SBR rails, and if you saw my last video, you know that I hate it. The current iteration has no dust collection and desperately needs it. I have since added a dust port, as well as a robust dust collection set up in my new shop, so watch for that in future videos. Also, that grizzly spoil board bit there, it's a good bit and it cuts pretty smooth, if it's sharp. And like most of my tools, it's dull, and so I burn the hell out of the table. Who cares, right? That's a problem for future sanding me. Now that the slab is surfaced, I cut off the excess with a jigsaw to prepare for the final flush trimming, which happens after the pour. Because I'm pouring epoxy, the live edge needs to be prepared to ensure adhesion. You use a wire brush and a Dremel with a sanding bit. I also decided to drill holes to make epoxy dowels. I'm not sure of the consensus on doing this, but in my simple mind, it strengthens the bond. And then I drilled one big hole in the center of the split. I think it weakens the crack and strengthens the bond. Making these partial forms was pretty easy. Just caulk on some melamine covered in packing tape and clamp it down. They released well too. Once the forms are done, it's on to the pour. Now I start by sealing them with epoxy to keep the air in the slab and the dye out. It dries for a day or so until it's tacky. Then I do the deep pour. And now we get it wet. Seal the air in, seal the dye out. I use 6 milliliters of dye to 3 gallons of epoxy, and I think it's a good ratio. It's mostly solid black, but there is a little bit of translucence at the edges where you can kind of see the live edge. And here is the pour. And this pour went beautifully. I didn't have any leaks, which is rare for me. And after 3 weeks, it was ready for demolding. Got a new surfacing bit, much smoother this time. now we're approaching final size, but as you can see, we have to creep up on it. Once the excess is all removed, I can use that template I cut to flush trim with the router. Alright, so I apologize if this is hard to watch. The worst bow tie is the one there in the middle. I should be using templates and routing everything with those, but if you watch my channel, you know that I like to do things the worst way I can think of. And this is why they're on the bottom. Now I added C-channel to this small table, not so much because I thought it would move, but I think it makes the table seem more premium. And who knows, maybe it will move, but I guess if it wants to move, it's gonna move, regardless of man's hubris and conceit. So now moving on to the table base. I got lucky that there was enough wood in the offcut of the slab that I could use it to build the base. And there was literally just enough because I ruined a couple pieces with my ineptitude. But the base matches the table perfectly, and I think it's cool. So I cut out the boards oversized with the track saw, then milled them square and flat. I am approximating a design that I saw online, but the angles and joinery are my own. Arbitrary angles and janky joinery. trying to figure out how to draw a 90-degree line to mark for my dominoes, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it, so I eyeballed it. So I want to quickly mention that this channel is not sponsored by anyone. So any opinions on tools are my own and free from corporate influence. That said, Festool, if you're watching, did you see how many shots I got of the domino? Quite the showcase in my opinion. So get in touch. So these joints ended up pretty bad. I think the problem was right here in the beginning of the glue up. I put a bunch of glue into the domino holes thinking it would squeeze out because the dominoes are fluted. It did not, and I think the glue volume prevented my joints from closing. See how much glue I put in those holes? Insane amount. I've been told to be generous with the glue, but this is taking philanthropy too far. Perhaps I need to be more selfish with the glue. I was hoping for this satisfying seam here with the squeeze out, but just didn't get it. So I cut it apart, did it again. Now my base design has this centerpiece here to join the 3 legs, and I made it circular to match the tabletop. Then I belt sanded 3 flat sides to receive the legs. I've been using that same piece of sandpaper for years, and the guy I bought the sander from probably did the same. So we're talking sandpaper from ancient times. Perhaps the dawn of sand itself. Anyway, after this buildup, I finally replaced the paper, and wow, it is night and day. Who knew? want to say thank you for watching this far into my video. If you like what you're watching, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. It helps with my ego and my self-esteem, which then allows me to make more videos. And if you like my furniture and want to commission a piece yourself, go to dreamriverdesigns.com. So I originally wanted to join the legs to the centerpiece with dominoes, but I couldn't understand how to do it. With the centerpiece being a circle that is perpendicular to the legs, I don't know what you would reference with the fence. If anyone has tips regarding how I could do this with dominoes, let me know. Instead, I just drilled through and installed dowels, and even though I drilled the holes with the drill press, they still ended up a bit large. So I used epoxy instead of wood glue to fill any empty space. Alright, here I know what you're thinking. Why are you using end grain dowels for plugs instead of matching grain? And it's mostly because I'm lazy. But here you'll see that I did in fact make a couple of my own plugs on the belt sander. They were only marginally better than the end grain dowels. I wish I had used a contrasting wood color to highlight the dowels instead of trying to camouflage them. Next time. So instead of trying to line up the holes in the centerpiece and the leg, I just drilled holes into the leg, and they're in random spots, basically, when they go into the centerpiece. Then I re-drill after I glue the centerpiece on and insert dowels. Probably the worst way I could do this. With my woodworking, I think about something for a long time, can't figure it out, eventually just go with some random bullshit. important thing when you use a domino joiner is to completely second guess all of your joints and just add some big ass leg screws into them. I used a block cut at the proper angle to guide the Forstner bit. Then I drilled pilot holes for the screws and almost started a shop fire. Finished with Osmo oil, 4 coats. I still haven't learned to sand properly, so after the first coat, I sand with the 3M maroon pad, and it gets rid of large sander track imperfections in the finish. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more of my work, please visit dreamriverdesigns.com and check out my other builds on my YouTube channel. Without further ado, here is the final product.